I'm Mark Greubel. I'm the head coach for Waco Team USA Kickboxing, and I've trained multiple world champions.
I'm Sergio Cunha, mixed martial arts coach. I coached 14 UFC world champions and 5 UFC Hall of Famers.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. We're here for another edition of the Double Jab podcast. Got a very special guest today, Miguel Torres. Miguel was on a tear for a very long time on top of the MMA world. Miguel, what's going on in your life now, man?
Nothing much. Just eating tacos and like doing the thing, you know? Being a free citizen and doing it.
Right on, right on. So I know that you and Sergio have had a little bit of history, had some fun times. Tell us a little bit about that.
When I first met Sergio, I didn't really get to train with him for a long time. I knew who he was, but I hadn't trained with him. And me and Bruno Maffasini share a mutual friend. And this guy walked into my academy at like 9:30 at night when I was doing my last class. I have like a late kickboxing class. And he walks in and we talk for like 3 hours. It's like 1 morning. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I want to go to sleep, but I'm a talker. He's a talker, and we're just talking shit. And he mentions Bruno's fighting now, MMA, and he's looking for training partners. I'm like, well, dude, I'm right here. And I'll always offer it, but never get the invitation extended out to come out and train. And I call Bruno right now. And then Bruno calls Laborio. Laborio talks to Sergio. Like, they all, like, yeah, come down. And my dude's like, okay, well, we'll have you come down for like 2 weeks. And I'm like, well, shit, I can't just leave, you know? So when they fixed it out so I can go out there. I retired, but I was still I train every day, you know? So I'm not like in fight shape, but I fight every day, so I'm still in general decent shape. So I can get out there and like before in the old days, I would gym from gyms. I would go to and everybody was trying to whoop my ass, and it was me like pretty much like showing what my cup of tea is about, you know, how it tastes. And I hadn't done that in a long time, so walking into this gym, I had no idea what to expect. I get there, it's not even a gym. It's a complex. It's like this giant big show cage, a weight room, a sparring for kickboxing area. I was like, holy shit. And for the first week, I didn't train with Bruno, you know?
You did not?
No, I trained with his training partners and some other guys. But watching me the whole time, and I'm like,
I was, you know, first of all, before you talk shit, I want to make you feel in home. That's why, you know, I want to make you train. I know you. I know what you could do.
Yeah.
Now you have Miguel Torres, you know, all his experience, and Bruno Malfacini with 5-6 matches, you know?
Yeah.
So I want to make you feel in home, you know? Right? My intention was good with you, right? For you.
I always feel at home wherever I go, you know? Wherever I put my neck on, I feel good there. But I got there, and Sergio was great. He was trying to break me with these workouts, and I was like, fuck, man, I'm not going to quit this shit. So I was like, we're going to do 3 rounds. And they was like, we're going to do 5 rounds. It's like, fuck, man, you did like 7 rounds, but we're done. I want to go to sleep. But it was like I used to idolize the guys that fought in Pride, you know, the guys that were like beginning at, like, for me, that's the beginning of MMA. UFC started out to get the American attention, but mixed martial arts was going on way before that, you know. And the guys that I idolized, I got to train with the guy that worked out with these guys. You know, Minotauro, all these guys that I watched growing up.
Right.
It's like a surreal experience, you know, very surreal.
Yeah, super cool, man. Yeah, that's kind of, he was telling me about when you showed up to the academy there. You know, obviously they're mainly a BJJ academy, and a lot of the guys were kind of talking and saying, you know, yeah, there's MMA guys coming down, blah, blah, blah. They didn't realize you're Carlson Gracie Blackbelt and that your jiu-jitsu skills are off the charts. And I think that was one of the things that was highly underrated about you, because you like to bang so much when you fought that, I don't know, maybe people were more worried about getting knocked out by you than getting submitted, but your submissions were off the charts.
Well, for me, that was my whole style. You know, like, don't confuse balls and brains. You know, like, I had brains for jiu-jitsu, but balls for striking, you know?
Yeah.
I grew up being bullied, so when I learned how to strike, I wasn't even good. I was just super aggressive and working out some deep-seated issues. So
Yeah, your arms are like you got a really weird build with a 76-inch reach. How tall are you?
I'm 5'10", but you have to understand, when I started fighting, there was no weigh-ins, there was no doctor checks. So they would ask you, do you have AIDS? Do you have hepatitis? How much? How much do you weigh?
Yeah.
What is your reach? So I said 76. I had no idea. I see some guy had like 72, so I 76. So they never really measured my arms. Measuring my arms after the fact, 71 and a half. So I have decent sized arms, but they're not 76.
Oh, okay. Because when I saw 76, I was like, I have a 71-inch reach.
Yeah.
You know.
No, Miguel was telling me about that story. They have a bar close by his home. You know, he get there at nighttime, you know, to have a drink, do something to watch what's going on. And they just have 2-3 guys fighting. And they look to him, hey, you, can you fight? He said, against who? Those guys? I fight all these guys, one after another. And he fought these guys in the bar. Then, you know, pretty much he start to fight like that, you know.
Wait, when you say in the bar, like just a bar fight?
Yeah, ask him. Yeah, he told me that.
The first fights that I had, right, like in the beginning of when I started MMA, it was like 99. There was no fights in like arenas. You know, there was not even a sanctioning body for MMA where in Chicago.
Oh, so this is a cage fight. This is not a street fight.
So, you're not a street fight.
Oh, okay.
These are like fights like in the bar.
Kind of inside.
Okay, I got you. I follow you now.
Fighting inside of a bar, right? So they have like clubs and bars, and so like the old days MMA, it was like you had to get a boxing license to have a boxing match. My area where I live in a weird spot of Indiana, where like it's in the tip of Chicago, so they call it East Chicago, Indiana. So when I travel, people are like, "Oh, where are you from?" And I'll say East Chicago. "Oh, you're from Chicago?" I'm like, "No, I'm from East Chicago, Indiana, not Chicago, Illinois." We border. When they outlawed MMA in Chicago, because there was an outlaw, like you couldn't throw fights there, all the promoters came to and when they were looking for local guys, I was the only small guy that had that could sell tickets. They didn't care about how much you weighed or what you looked like, obviously, because I was skinny and ugly. I could sell a lot of tickets, you know?
Yeah.
In my first fights, I was selling like 50, 60 tickets. Everyone didn't believe I was going to fight. And then when I told them I was going to fight, they were like, I got to see this shit. Because I kept winning, they kept watching, you know? And it just turned into one of those things where, like, your destiny rolls before you, but you believe in yourself, like visualization. You know, you manifest that stuff. So I got, you know.
That's cool, man. And so you took a little hiatus from MMA. What happened?
Well, life, you know. So before I got to WEC, I already had like 30, and it wasn't so much the fights, it was the fight camps, because I didn't have like a coach that, before I met Carlson, I already had 30 fights. So Carlson Sr. always watching me fight, you know, like I started fighting the first fight, the second fight, third fight. Eventually I was a 135-pound fighter fighting the main events in arenas where Stephen Bonner would fight, and Jay-Z came down to fight in my area. Like I had big name guys to come down to fight, but I was the main event. And what would happen is, because I sold so many tickets, and the promoters want people to spend money at the shows, I would fight the first fight, but I'd bring like 150 people. And they would buy the first sections of the front rows. And after the fight, I would leave. So I didn't give a shit about nobody else's fight. I didn't want to watch the other guys. After I fought, I would leave. And all my fans would leave with me. And we would have a pizza party, or I would rent an actual restaurant and all the food for everybody, you know, to network, to build like you meet your friends and whoever came to the fight. Yeah. And tell them what tickets next time. I'm like a businessman already, but at 20. And the promoters, you can't do that. Yeah, they didn't like that too much, I'm sure. We're making a video, like we're just starting to record these to sell DVDs. It looks empty, you know? People that were paying $10 for sneaking downstairs for the $100 seats, you know, because it was empty. Yeah. And they were like, you can't do that. And me, being Mexican, I'm like, well, then don't put me the first fight, motherfucker. I don't care. And so time went on, and I was the second fight, the fourth fight, the fifth fight, so I was the main event. Yeah. So I seen MMA different when I came up, you know, like it was like the ground roots from the beginning. I mean, it wasn't like Sergio where like there was headbutts and you can bite people, but it was grimy.
Footstep, everything, huh? I kick your nuts. You know, you start to hit me, I kick your nuts. I don't care. You're gonna disqualify me?
legal?
Of course,
You
was.
can kick in the nuts?
Yeah, I fought it this way too.
My God,
you
man.
could kick in the nuts. Nobody say you couldn't. They just told me one thing: no eye poke, and don't put your hands and try to, to tear his mouth. Everything else is allowed. I say, okay, I'm good.
I had a friend of mine who fought in UFC, and I think this is why they had the, what do they call it, the fish hooking rule? I know Tank did it on a guy, but he had a guy stick his pinky in his nose. It was Jack Nielsen. Jack Nielsen fought as a heavyweight, and his opponent stuck his pinky in his nose and ripped his nose in half.
Before don't have rules,
Oh my
right?
God,
Everything
dude.
goes. We call this in Brazil vale tudo, right, Miguel? Vale tudo. Everything goes.
Whoever worked on Jack's face, though, did an amazing job. Like, you can't even tell, but holy smokes, man. He came back, his nose is all stitched up. And I know he didn't get smashed in the face. He's like, no, the guy stick this damn finger in my nose, man.
Crazy, right?
That is crazy.
So Miguel saw all this, he fought against these guys, that type of fight. You can do everything and just try to be alive. Just put the guy out, survive, and go home, right?
Yeah.
And 3 times in one night. That was twice that I fought 3 times in one night. And I didn't finish nobody. They were all decisions,
Ugh.
15-minute fights. There was twice that I fought for 45 minutes.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, those tournaments was tough as hell, right, Miguel? Back in the day.
How did you feel after that?
Like a man.
I guess you have to after that.
Like I literally, people tell me now that I walk like I'm cocky. They're like, why do you walk like you're fucking 300 pounds? Because I'm 500 pounds, man. I'm walking kind of small, actually. Like, you feel empowered, like your whole life, like the whole purpose of me training martial arts was to not be weak anymore.
Yeah.
Learn how to become a strong person. Where do I go from there? I'm already strong. Then I realized I can empower other people to be strong, if not stronger than me.
Right.
That feel tense, like you are raising your hierarchy of needs to go to a visualization of actualization, So I'm giving what I made for myself to other people, and then seeing their lives grow and change, and then them affect other people. So for me, it's like I got herpes in my mouth, so I'm gonna give everybody a kiss, and we're all gonna get it together. So I want to kiss everybody, making sure everybody has the best experience in life. I did martial arts because I wanted to change to be strong,
Yeah.
and I couldn't. So I had to look really hard. So finally, when I met Carlson, and I had all this experience, when I met him, it was like a man believing in me after I believed in myself. And it's like you meet 2 people like that, and you get what you get.
When exactly did you meet him?
Before I trained with him, I met him a couple of times because he had students that were fighting in the same area that I was fighting. Because him was in Chicago. Fights in Chicago. So they moved all the fights to a city called Hammond, Indiana. Hammond, East Chicago. So it's still in the hood, but it's close to the border where you can drive 30 minutes and get there. So Carlson, there was the card I put on, and there was 3 guys from American Top Team that came down with Laborio. It was Jay-Z, I think it was Thiago Alves, and it was somebody else, Suarez. It was some Suarez.
Ed Soares.
And they fought in the same card as me, and I was to fight after them, but I didn't know who they were Brazilian guys, For me, I trained with Brazilian guys already, so for me, I'm trying to be the tough guy, And I had Makashi there to play for me that night. So I was really preoccupied with my own shit. But Carlson was there with a Stefan Bonner, and I'm leaving the arena after I got paid, and some old dude is talking shit to some younger cocky guy, talking mad shit. And he wants to fight him, and all the guys that fought are holding trying to separate everybody. No, let's make peace. And now, old dude is the man, bro. He was just an aggressive old dude, And I didn't speak Portuguese at the time, and he's just fucking talking shit in Portuguese all the time. And I'm like, dude, let's go get pizza. And now, the first time I met him as he was coaching other guys, but I had no idea that he was Carlson Gracie. Voice was, I knew who Hickson was, and that was watching the UFC and watching that video choke. I knew Henzo a little bit, but that's because he fought Sakuraba and Pride. So I knew more Minotauro. I knew more Anderson Silva, the guys that were competing more than the coaches.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was training in Brazil with De La Riva. So I met Ricardo De La Riva through an associate of mine, Marcelo Montero. He was one of the first black belts that came to Indiana to bring jiu-jitsu here. And I Solo, and I'm like, well, who did you get your black belt from? And he got it from De La Riva. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna go to his guy, and I would go to De La Riva's for like 2 months at a time. And De La Riva's like, dude, why are you coming here? It's like, I don't do MMA. I'll train fighters, but my specialty is jiu-jitsu. If you want to really be a fighter, because you're actually a fighter winning fights and doing things, you should train with Carlson. And I'm like, where's he at? He's in Chicago. I literally flew from Chicago to Brazil. Like Chicago and train with Carlson. I'm like, crazy, man. All things work out. So I fly back, and then Carlson's not home. He's in Brazil. And I'm like, oh, shit, I just missed him. But I met all the guys that he was training at his gym. Met all Stephen Bonner and the guys that were fighting. And they knew me already because we all fought in the same arena. And we just started training, and then he came back. And as soon as he seen me, the first thing he said was, you're my rooster, and I'm going to make you a world champion.
Yeah.
Dang.
Everybody knows that story in Brazil. Everybody know in Brazil. If you talk that story in Brazil, everybody, martial arts guys know about that story. Exactly like the way he said.
Yeah.
I mean, his eyes were like, he was waiting for me to come. Like, he didn't realize I couldn't come earlier. And then as soon as we hooked up, it was like, he was the first guy that told me I overtrained myself. I would do like 10. I was so anxious. Like, I had so much anxiety from being a small guy, being skinny, not having like the body everybody else had. I would do, instead of 4 rounds or 5 rounds, I would do 10. And Carlson, I'm going to Chipotle. I'm going to get Starbucks. He's like, you're overtraining yourself. And me, I didn't give a shit. You know, I just did it anyways. Now in my older years, I look back telling my guys, okay, 5 rounds. The fight's 25 rounds max, no more than 5 rounds. Now I what he was saying, you know. But meeting Carlson, like, really changed everything. But I seen him way before in the coaching other guys.
You know what is cool? So I had a chance to be with Miguel a while. You know, we train together, we travel together. This is a guy with a guy who live martial arts daily.
Right.
But you know, he's a good guy to be around. Always good energy, always smiling, always put your smile on your face, you know? He's a good person, you know? And this is a guy, somebody's really dangerous. Inside the cage, outside the cage. But outside the cage, you know, all his experience make him be like a, you know, the way he said, not just a good guy, but a good trainer, you know, a good guy for his guys, for his academy. So the guys in Chicago, his students and everybody around, you know, have one super top guy, you know, in the area to coach you, you know, and also a nice guy, you know, a nice guy. When I'm sorry, but when the shit get ugly, you know, call Miguel. He gonna say, yeah, I'm going, you know.
I was waiting for this call.
Like the Miguel, the Torres sign, right? The sign on the sky, Torres.
A big taco in the air.
Oh man. So Sergio was saying you guys went to Abu Dhabi. Ended up everyone performed very well over there. Bruno had his
Bruno
submission.
won his submission.
And then met up with a sheik that let you guys like hang out on his yacht.
Before that, 2 days before, 1 day before, we went to Ferrari World for that, you know, thing like a Disney World for who love Ferrari.
You guys get to drive him?
No, we got in the roller coaster, faster on the world.
Oh.
I needed to go fast. I was scared. They dragged me. No, you going. Now you going. Man, that was insane. I just looked for Roger. Roger was like, you know, pale. Like, oh my God, I will die. Well, it was a great trip, a great experience. You know, good. Everything works well. Our fighter won. You know, great friends trip. You know, I promise. I had a friend. They make so much fun of me because my friend have a boat, just a little boat, right, Miguel? And my friend said, "No, tomorrow you guys go with me with my boat. We're gonna hang out in the river, on the lake, with my boat." Then I told all the guys, tomorrow we have a cruise. We go on the boat, right? Everybody say, yeah, man, this is awesome. So next morning, everybody wake up.
This already sounds great.
Everybody wake up early. Then I messaged my friend. My friend said, no, I'm going with my family. You guys not coming with me.
Oh.
Then I had to come back and say, guys, I'm sorry. my guy just fell. He going for his daughters, and we can go to the boat, right? So next day, we was in Abu Dhabi. Next day, they make fun of me a lot, you know. Hey, look at you. You run your mouth. You don't know nobody. The next day, we went to Dubai, and Bruno teach a private class for the sheikh. Then the sheikh offer his yacht. He's I believe he's the third biggest in the world, right, Miguel? Like third.
What?
Big, yeah.
It was not a yacht. It was a house.
See, it's like
Holy
something,
smokes.
yeah. Then I was
My house.
I was unlucky because I had to come back to Abu Dhabi to stamp my visa in American embassy to come back home. And they went to the boat. And my way, like 1 hour inside the car in the desert, people drive me, they call me, Sergio, where are you? I'm going to the embassy and stamp my passport to come back home. And you guys, we get in the real boat now. Okay, they make so much fun of me, and they have, they sending pictures for me, 5 minutes. Look at that. Look at the pool inside the boat. Look at how long it is. Now we getting food. Now we're doing this, and I just sit inside the embassy waiting my passport to come
So
back
you didn't
home.
get to go at all?
No, just me. So I did everything. I make everything. I will do. Gonna be nice, and I was the only one who didn't win.
Oh, man. That's hilarious, man.
But they had a blast. They had so much fun.
So how's the gym going now, man?
Well, the gym was doing great. So, like the beginning of the year, I opened up in November. My whole life, like when I started training and I got into teaching, I didn't want to teach till I retired from MMA. So I didn't want to start teaching actually till I was like in my late 40s, But I started my career super early. I started at 17 years old. So by the time I was like 25, 26, I already had so many fights that my body took a toll. My hands, my knees, my ankles, my elbows, my neck, my back. You get injuries. Every fight is not the fight that's hard. It's the training camp to get to the fight. Because you got one day, if I spar 10 times, 5-minute rounds in one session, I'm doing 3 sessions. That's 30 fights, and a day with a new guy every 2 minutes. Because once a guy gets tired, get a new guy in here. So I would have 2 or 3 guys in the cage, and it was a nonstop whirlwind of just not pressure, And in the beginning, it was a little bit different. So it's one of those where I got lost in my conversation talking about the old days.
We're talking about your gym, how it's going.
Gym, yeah. So in the beginning, the gym was like always small. I always rented a spot. I was always training for fights and not wanting to train people. But as I started like training with guys to fight them, to train for my fights, they were like, well, hey, why don't you teach a class? Like, I would show up and 10 guys would get there and we'd fight. Everybody does 5 minutes until everybody was tired. And they were like, well, why don't we just actually do like an actual class? So when I started teaching, we had used mats, mixed match gloves. We didn't have heavy bags. We didn't have actual academy. And then when I started affording myself those things kind of like progressed, but I was still renting. It was never really mine. So now I have the opportunity to where like I actually own like my own martial arts. I wouldn't even call it like a jiu-jitsu gym. It's a martial arts academy. It encompasses kickboxing, boxing, wrestling, judo, jiu-jitsu. We do MMA, and we have the facility to where we can host at least 100 people on the mat at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
100 people. So how big is that thing then?
It's giant. It's giant complex.
10,000?
37, well, almost 4,000 with the kids room. 3,700 square feet of mat space.
Nice.
And that's like Tommy and like real mats.
Yeah.
Everything is top notch. Everything is top notch.
That's cool, man. Good for you, brother.
Yeah, you deserve, He put his whole entire life in martial arts. That's at the least what he deserves, And think about this, all that knowledge, what he gotta do with that knowledge? You gotta pass by, right? You gotta give to somebody that knowledge. It's unfair. You keep that off of you, for you. You gotta, teach your kids, teach your fighters, It's so much to get done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not because you're not fighting, your fighter life is over. Not at all.
Yeah.
You just, start a new chapter, right?
Like when mixed martial arts first kind of hit the mainstream scene, you know, there's a lot of talk from a lot of traditional martial artists like, they're just bastardizing the arts. They're just making it this, they're making it that. But if you look back from like UFC 1 to UFC now, the progression from the martial arts quality, like the guys are insane.
Exactly, yeah.
They're off the charts good.
Exactly, yeah,
you know?
it's insane. And become a real sport for the sportsman.
Yeah.
You know, you grab one guy, even back in the day, even when he was fighting, if you wasn't legit martial artist and train, a lot, you couldn't compete. You couldn't fight a tournament of 3 fights at the same night. How you would do it?
Yeah.
Right?
So the biggest thing with that for me is like a fighter fights for himself, right? So you can be a fighter and be a martial artist. What makes you a pure martial artist is when you're a martial artist, you fight for everybody else. You don't fight for just yourself, you know? So even I was like a fighter's fighter and I fought like a tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't for me. It was always to be able to one day come back and say, well, I'm going to teach jiu-jitsu or kickboxing or MMA, but this is my experience. And I didn't just, learn from somebody to teach me what I learned. I actually experienced it. So I tried to always maintain my integrity as a martial artist, even though I did other things as a fighter,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Awesome, man.
This is awesome. Miguel. Be a WEC world champion was some achievement, fantastic. How do you feel? Of course, I know it's amazing, about you accomplished that, after you get that title and looked at that belt and say, I did. What's the feeling?
It was like when I graduated college. I did it for my dad. After I got my diploma, I said, here, this is for you. I didn't want to go to college, Fighting, I always wanted, when I was a little boy, 5, 6 years old, I knew I wanted to fight. Bruce Lee movies, Julio Cesar Chavez, like watching all the Roberto Duran, all the old school boxers that I would watch and hear the stories. And it wasn't because of what they were fighting. It was the reaction of my dad and his friends. They'd come watch the fights on Saturday, and there was a fight. They would get up to the national anthem. They would cry if the guy lost. They would cry if the guy won. These are like the toughest guys in the world. Like my 18 hours, come home and then go play soccer, and then go to the bar, and then go to work, and then sleep. I'm like, fuck. These guys are the guys in the world. And my dad would always tell me, whenever I would do something wrong and he would smack me or he would hit me, and I would cry, he would do it again and say, men don't cry, And I would see my dad cry, not from pain and not from, something like that. It was just from the emotion, this fighter body, these grown men, the toughest guys in the world. So I knew at that moment, that's what I wanted to do,
That's awesome, right?
Yeah. I've had people ask me, man, why is that guy crying just because he lost his match or whatever? And I'm like, man, the guy just spent 3 months of his life preparing for that, dude.
Yeah.
He put so much into that. The amount of energy and money and time away from his family. If you put all that in there and then you come up short, man, it can crush some people.
Crush.
That's when you find that level and you win. For me, when I won, I didn't win for myself. I won for all of and I call everybody my people who support me, my fans, my friends, people that knew me from seeing my story. When I won for everybody. So my heart heavy. And then when I would lose, and I'm like, shit, everybody just lost with me, And when you walk out of the cage and you win, everybody's happy for you. When you walk out of the cage and you lose, people look at you like, shit, like they're like sad.
Yeah.
Because everyone has that feeling because you lost. You like if you have an open heart, you feel that shit, and it's very heavy. Some people don't handle that well, but the purpose of jiu-jitsu is you learn how to fall, learn how to get up. When you fight and you fall, it's not about falling and how far you fall. It's about how you get up. So every time it was just get up and let's learn how to get better and not make the same mistake again. And that's what I pass on to my students. The same idea, same style.
Right on. You got any studs up there that the world needs to look out for?
I got a couple of young guys.
Yeah.
Like my style, I grew up doing tournaments and stuff like that, but it was more for my academy to get everybody like pumped up to stay in the sport. My MMA, like when I started in the beginning, was to learn how to fight better. Like I wasn't a grappler in the beginning; I was a striker.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to strike right. I was aggressive and just tough, And guys that didn't know how to strike, wrestlers and jiu-jitsu guys, they would whoop my ass on the floor. So I realized I have to learn this if I'm going to do this the right way. And when jiu-jitsu, it was always for MMA or always for fighting, wrapping the can't punch me, getting to my side so I can escape my hips and try to get up, or, it was always for fighting. But having guys compete in tournaments and also competing in tournaments, the same jiu-jitsu worked, And I felt like my style was a little bit different because we utilized, like Carlson Gracie Sr., we used the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, we used catch wrestling, lucha libre. We used anything that worked, that was not a move or an illegal move in traditional jiu-jitsu. We brought in 100% to our style. And even though it was dangerous for the students, if you're my training partner and I have you in a neck crank or a heel hook, I'm not going to break your neck or your arm, because if I hurt you, you're not going to come back tomorrow. So the style that I teach is a little bit dangerous, but very effective in a combat situation for like either fighting or self-defense. For me, I think jiu-jitsu should be offensive, not defensive. If you react to somebody's attack, you're already a step behind. If your attack is going to come, you either leave or you stop it first. You go first.
Yeah.
My opinion of martial arts,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I like that too.
Yeah. Well, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed what you just heard from Miguel. I learned a lot about Miguel just in this 30 minutes, and I'm happy that you agreed to the interview, man. I watched you fighting for a very, very long time. I was a big fan of yours. I really loved your style. You always brought excitement to the cage and made it worthwhile for the fans to watch you. So, guys, thank you, Miguel. We'll see you guys next time on the Double Jab Podcast.
Thanks, Miguel. See you soon, buddy.